My first real memory of water, or in fact the lack of it, was while growing up in Lebanon during the civil war in the 80s. This was a very difficult period for my country. We suffered from a lot of pain and destruction and violence. My own house was bombed during the civil war. But for a little girl growing up, other than listening to the bombs falling around me, the starkest memory I have is waking up one morning and going to the bathroom to brush my teeth and turning on the faucet and nothing came down. For some listening to me right now, they're probably thinking, we understand what she's talking about. Others may probably not have an idea. And the rest might be cynically smiling and thinking, this girl should count her blessings because at least she had a faucet at home. But the bottom line is that for me, this memory was the first instant where I realized that water was not to be taken for granted. I remember the women at home, my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, telling me to use the water carefully. Don't waste water. I still remember to this day my mother's voice inside my head. The women used to fill buckets and buckets of water when it was available, only a couple of hours during the week. This was because of the lack of it, and usually because there was no electricity to pump the water up. I also remember my mother reusing the water used to do our laundry, to clean the stairs or wash the floors, or even to flush the toilets. They used to fill buckets and bottles and sometimes even the bathtub because we had no idea when the water would be available next. And I remember mathematical calculations, like we need 1 bucket of water to flush the toilet, 3 buckets to take a quick shower, and so on and so forth. We were among the lucky ones. We prided ourselves for having a well beneath our building. So we had access to water relatively more regularly than others in our neighborhood. But what good was this well if there was no electricity to pump it up to the 6th floor where we lived, or even the 1st floor? So I remember one day the tenants in the building met to decide to buy a generator just to pump the water up and to have access to some of the water that was still usable. I remember the arguments the neighbors had. My mother insisted that we needed the generator. Others didn't want to invest in it. It cost a lot of money. So, one of the neighbors said that those who don't pay for the generator don't get the water, that the water will be cut off completely from those. What a dilemma. Who decides this? Who has the right to cut off a basic need as water from the people? I used to hear them scream at each other. We had our own micro-water war in the building. I can confidently say that my passion for water comes from this earliest memory. We cannot spend more than we can afford, my mother used to say about water. We needed to budget. We needed to treat water like money. Why do people value money so much and treat it so carefully, and not do the same for something much more essential and valuable, such as water? This notion stirred in me the desire to raise awareness in Lebanon and in the region about the need for every country to have what is called a water budget, to know what we have, and to know how much we need, and to know how much we can spend sustainably, keeping in mind the future generations to come. This memory of budgeting, coupled with my memory of our neighbors fighting over who gets water, has also led me to take an active part in the regional cooperation mechanism, which was a key recommendation of the Blue Peace Report, and which the Swiss Development Cooperation, together with the Strategic Foresight Group, has played an active role in coordinating and pushing for its success. I don't want to see my country go through another war, let alone a war over water. Our region, the Middle East, is vulnerable and volatile, and water is in fact in the heart of this dispute. We need to work on preventive policies rather than find ourselves one day working on curative ones. What we are trying to do is to create a space for dialogue and cooperation between regional countries to render water a catalyst for peace rather than an instigator of conflict. We have a long journey forward, but I am sure that together the journey will flow in the right direction.